Hi there. Welcome back. Today we are going to be doing, hopefully, a short tutorial on how to incorporate yoga triangles into the full splits. The full splits is challenging in and of itself, but oftentimes when you're trying to work into your full splits, you'll discover that getting your inner thighs close to the mat or close to the ground is really challenging. So having some support between the mat and your legs can be really helpful. So we'll just go over a couple of ways to incorporate the triangles in this variation. So if you are coming into a full splits, there's a number of ways that you can come into full splits. I'm going to come into full splits from a kneeling position and just extend my leg back. Now this may be as far as you get in your full splits variation, which is fine. You can slide a triangle underneath the thigh muscle here, and this will get you closer to the ground without any unnecessary discomfort or pain. As this top leg extends open, you'll notice over time that there's a nice point for you to slide the triangle underneath the back of the glute to catch, or the inner thigh for either of these variations. So you've got full support here. You can keep the hips rotated forward. You're not collapsing down onto the inner thighs. You're able to lift up and out of the spine. And I mean, I'm not going to say it feels good, but it definitely feels better than holding or hovering in this position when there's just not the right mobility for that. Also worth mentioning, that glute release where we have the peak pressing into the back of the glute is going to help open up the fascia over time, which makes getting into these poses like splits much more accessible. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to come into a kneeling position, let my legs slide back, move the triangle close to the top of the hip or the inner thigh, and my other leg can extend out. And as my other leg extends out, I can choose to place that triangle back behind the glute to help catch and provide support. I can also come in from a different angle here, just by turning the triangle. And now I have more of the peak in the back of the connective tissue, and this is yielding a much deeper trigger point release for me. Over time, you can also reduce down to one and play with laying closer to the ground or sitting back up and finding length in the spine, keeping your hips forward. And eventually you get to a point where you can hang out on your triangles under your hands and hover in your splits, lowering yourself all the way down onto either side. So I hope that you've found this to be helpful. Advice for practicing the splits: be patient, be gentle, creatively support wherever you need support. And the last bit of advice I'll give you is, if you're having a really hard time and you are certain that this is something that you're capable of and that you want to do, stretching the quadricep is such a good idea. So the last thing I would recommend is either pulling the heel or sitting back on your leg in a seated position for either of the quads. And you'll find that you'll get more mobility and range of motion for your split. So I hope that this tutorial has been helpful. Thank you so much, and keep coming back.